So here we go. And just like that, I begin to dry brush these 40 Clanrats. Now, I've watched a lot of Artis Opus dry brushing videos. Big shout out to him. Really good, really cool, very easy to follow as well. And this is where I've kind of gained my confidence from. Using the grey seer here over the black. Yeah, 40 Clanrats, but it really doesn't take me long, and I don't overthink the dry brushing. It's easy to do so and get lost with it, but as you can see here, I'm just putting it on. Where I don't put it on, I don't put it on. I try and leave that to the shadows, but this is how it looks. Grey seer over black, dry brush. And I do dry brush quite wet. Probably wetter than I should. But this is how they look. Look at the detail. Look at the detail, these Clanrats. It's all showing up pretty well. There's that much detail, it's hard to decipher what is what in some cases, which we'll see me struggle with later on. 40 Clanrats. Ugh. Yeah. Hold on, let's get the quality, skill needed, and time per model done. I decided to follow a colour scheme that was very close to Darcy Bono Creations, another content creator on YouTube. She had some phenomenal videos, and I was following hers, and I really liked this black and like lime green and a black rat. I really wanted to give it a go. And that's half the battle, is finding something you want to do and give it a go. The first 10 models, this is when I realized how detailed these were. And it was taking me quite a while, and I'm not gonna lie, I was starting to get quite stressed because it just seemed to take so long, and I had to be so steady trying to just cover in the black, when the reality is, if you do get a bit of black on the grey seer where you shouldn't, you can just wash it off or paint it after. But that whole thing, especially a tabletop standard, and painters at my level, which is tabletop standard, you only kind of want to do it once. That's part of it. We don't always have lots of time. So this really started off rough, and I was starting to look at all the other Clanrats I had lying on the table ready, and it took me a long time. When I go into like the 20s, the first 10, like I say, it was stressful. Then the next 10, getting into the 20, I was starting to get the model, starting to know the details, learn the details, and it did get a little quicker at first, but at the same time, you just don't want to be rushing it too much, or you'll get the black contrast paint everywhere. So I just took a few big breaths, smiled, and kept going. But I gotta be honest, this is the longest part of painting the model. The black contrast on these 40 Clanrats took the longest by far. It's easily 5 minutes per model for me to do. And it and it was rough, but like I say, you put a big old smile on your face, remind yourself why you're doing it, and start painting. But it was hard, and it did get really hard, and I was getting tired. Yeah, I know, painting models, I was concentrating that hard to try and do really good. It was stressful. And in the same day, I must have lost my mind completely because I decided to put this base green down. Now I was going to put another colour over the top. That's what I had in mind, so this was just the first layer. I was happy because there wasn't much to do. And that kind of lifted my spirit a bit after doing all that black and concentrating. I still had to concentrate. You still got to concentrate. And every time you paint a model, you can learn. You get better. Maybe not every single model, but every batch. And I think it's down to brush control. And I think some of the top painters will tell you that brush control is important, if not the key. So on my painting here, you can just see that I am trying to use small, short brush strokes. Now this took a couple of minutes on each model. Nowhere near like 5 minutes, but I was near the end and I had been going all day with these Clanrats. So I think in the end there were 5 that didn't get any green because I was done for the day. I'd had a full 8-hour day by this point. And I don't know about you guys, but it is hard work for my brain to paint. Let's put it that way. But the next day I came in a little fresher, looking at 40 rats. So here we are. Skeleton brown and the porpoise pink. And I was a bit, is this going to be a big day? Is it going to be a hard day? How hard are these models actually to paint, stunning as they look? But I gotta be honest, I was massively surprised, and it was really cool just to get this pink on. Now, the end result, I'm not a great painter. It's tabletop standard, like I keep saying, which is more than enough. But I was becoming a bit optimistic. The black skin, using the nun oil over the grey sear, this, for me, has turned out so well, and it was quick to do. After, there's a couple of bits around masks or where it needs to keep grey, but because you're starting to fill the model in, you've got less to paint. You know, you can see where you're going just that little bit better. And of course, with it just being nun oil over the top and blended in a little bit, I'd say onto the pink just by coming up close to it. But it really didn't take that much time. And I was starting to see what I was painting here, and it was pretty cool, which then spurred me on to get this highlight down. Now, this did take a couple of minutes per model. I was fresher, and I was starting to see the results. I could see the pink on the nose, the tails. I could see the black skin and the colours starting to separate, and I could start to see the model. And as you can see here, this lime green, it's a airbrush paint, I believe, by Vallejo. And I just use it straight out of the pot to get a thick coat. And as you can see, short, small brushes again. But for a tabletop standard, I was happy, and it spurred me on. And I was really enjoying myself at this point. And I could see the detail in the models and how cool they were going to look. Because at the end of the day, when you're playing your games or using your models for whatever you do, I do D&D. Love to get into Age of Sigmar, but that's yet to come. Anyway, this is the painting. And when your models are a foot away from your eyes, all models look insanely good, and that is the whole point of tabletop standard. There are great artists out there. I've mentioned some of them. Artist Opus, Darcy Bono Creations. My favourite artist to watch is the Feral Painter. I think his works, it gets me. I like it. I vibe. Along with all the other artists and creators mentioned. But look how easy this green is going down. I was really enjoying it because I can now see everything, like I'd mentioned before, and I think this is part of painting. it's hard because a lot of people don't have the time, and you kind of want to know what you can do in an hour and get all your paints out, get some paint down, and then you have to pack it all away. And I understand that. That can be really tough. I guess that's why people are always looking and wanting to know what's good enough or what's acceptable. Well, bottom line is, if you're happy with it, then it's more than acceptable. In a tabletop standard, it isn't the Golden Demon Awards. It's just not. Back to the painting here. I'd missed the base coat on the masks. I think I was going to do it a leather or a colour, or possibly just got bored of painting the green at that point. There were 5 that I hadn't done, as mentioned previously, but you'll see them in a bit probably. But it really didn't take long, a couple of minutes a model. An hour and a bit of painting. Yeah, that's the reality when you add it up. 40 Clanrats. But it was easy. I wasn't stressed. I knew it was just getting easier and easier. And this snake bite leather contrast paint, it's one of my favorite leathers, but what it's also good for is wood. Now, you could probably spend 20 minutes on one of these models and just do more and more and more, but the whole point of this is 3 paints, 3 to 5 different colours, if you can help it. So not only did all the leather get the snake bite, so did all the wood. And the time, you're not even talking 20 seconds model. Some of them were literally a few seconds to do, which was great. And that's some of the beauty of these contrast paints or these speed paints. Depending who you go with, they really do a lot of work for you, and you can accomplish something you could be happy with at the tabletop standard. Here we go. Contrast paint. Straight onto the grey seer, trying to get a metal. Because I was looking at the bronzes, I was looking at the coppers, the Necron compound, like high silvers. And I just didn't want that on these Clanrats. I wanted grubby. I wanted grime and limited to the paints I have. Well, the skeleton hole made sense, and I'm so glad because this was super simple, super quick. I really like how it's come out at the end. But as you can see, I'm having less and less to paint. I'm using the contrasts. It is quick. It's as quick as a model can be for looking like something that's not just been dropped in a puddle of ink. The only time I had to be careful was around the green, and I didn't really want to get in on that, but if I did, with it being a contrast paint, it was just really easy to dip the paint in the water and take it off the ground. Soak it up a bit with the brush end. But now I was on fire, and I thought, I've got time. I'm not breaching 10 minutes a model. And I wanted it to look a bit minging, rusty, dangerous. So I wanged this blood letter all over them, and once again, this is seconds. You can see here, clearly I am just wanging it on, and you can see I put quite a bit on, loaded it, did the trick. In fact, these last few stages were so quick. I got a bit clever and thought I'd paint the Skaventide symbol on all the shields. Look, even did a close-up shot to say, hey, look at this. But I gotta be honest, this was the third one. And after the 2 days, even though I was excited, I thought, I ain't doing this. I'm not going to do this to another 37 models. So I left the shields for the moment and thought, I'll come up with something. Because what I did want to do was put a dry brush highlight down. Dry brushing, it's a game changer. Along with contrast paints and speed paints, dry brushing, and like I say, there's people like Artist Opus out there. Check his channel out, check his content out. It can just add very little very quickly, which does finish it. Gives it some small finishing touches very easily and very quickly. I know some people can get frustrated with the dry brushing or have too much on or not enough on. I see all the comments from on other channels, and it is weird. I think you just got to put a smile on your face and enjoy it. Here, the old Games Workshop brush, I didn't have a small dry brush. I normally use makeup brushes. I'm looking at spending some money like Artist Opus ones, but I haven't quite got that yet. So I'm using this, but I did have to cut it down, and this made it easier. These rats are small. I don't know if you can tell, but they are small. So yeah, put the bristles, just this small bit of dry brushing. Makes sense. It really finishes the model off. Or almost finishes them off. There was one more thing I had to do. This did not take long. I was super happy. The shields needed it. So I thought, I know. Just splodge on like they've been walking in a line, like marching through, and one of the ratlings is there with its paint and just slapping it on as they walk past. That's my story. That's my lore. That's what I'm sticking with. But ultimately, when all these had dried, last phase for me at the Dungeon Den, I magnetize everything and polarize it to my scenery, just because why wouldn't you? If you can and you've got the will, get it done. Magnetized minis are just super cool. Enough said. Now here you are. Tabletop standard Clanrats. Thank you for joining me once again. I'm going to give my verdict at the end. You'll see. Keep watching. Break the chains. Free your creativity. Bye.